Let's make sure this is working. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Friday Tea Time Ascension Talk. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oops, let me just adjust this. Welcome, everyone. I know I can't do anything. That's okay. Just a little bit of that. Hi, Demetrius.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Demetrius. How are you doing today, brother?
Friday tea time. Blessings to all of you. I'm actually not drinking tea today. I have a tiny bit of mushroom coffee here, a little bit, and some coconut almond milk and some cinnamon on here. Hi, Angela. Nice to see you. Good. And some honey. What are you all drinking today? Let's get a feel for, I'm just trying to adjust this, if this can be. Let's see what you're drinking, how you feeling. Thank you so much for joining. As we missed you last week, understandably so. I was not in a place to be going live at all with all that body ache. Hi, Mariam John.
Good afternoon,
nice to
Mariam.
see you.
Good to see you.
So let us know where you're joining us from. What are you drinking today? My eyes can't really see. I can,
Okay.
I don't know. I know Angela just wrote a message.
Homemade tea, homemade sun tea.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Angela, when I was younger, that was one thing my parents loved to do. They would take a huge bottle of tea and place it out on our balcony. It was great on our patio. And it was beautiful when the sun rays came in. It would change the tea the whole day. So it was it's very nice when you can have the tea charged by the beautiful power of the golden sun and then have that be brought in. So what is the usual, Demetrius? You're drinking the usual. Please enlighten us. Remind us, what is the usual tea?
He usually does the ginger. And lemon, honey.
That's what I'm actually drinking. I'm drinking a lemon ginger manuka honey. So
yeah, with puka tea.
Yeah.
Angela, it was so nice seeing you on Todd's show. It was so nice to see you, and then with your partner, just so nice. It's nice to get to see you in action and sharing your beautiful wisdom. So how you all doing? Have you been sort of like thrown around quite a bit like me from last week to this week? One full week has been for me. A little bit more, I would say. And we get to share quite a bit as we relax back, chill out. I also have coconut muffins today. I really am in this space of, it's interesting. I feel like I wanted cookie and sweet, and I feel it's because this week going through so much emotionally, like just some nectar from my heart.
Nourish the sweetness.
Yeah, really, because it's been quite the kick-ass, I have to say. So we want to hear how you all are, and let us start with, let's see, I don't even know where to begin, other than there's a lot to cover around what took place on 8/8, which we'll get into it. The details of 8/8. Should we just do that now?
Sure. Why
Yeah?
not?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And we want to hear how your
Yeah.
8/8 was, because then we talk about where we are, because we didn't get a chance to share it last week because my body was in such tremendous pain, which we'll go through it. I happened to experience the severe ascension symptoms post 8/8 line StarGate and the closing of the gate several days later. And it was quite intense, but it was also, I can see it now, preparing me for what I have faced from last Friday till this Friday. So it's, and we all go through it. We feel like we've been thrown over the truck, under the truck, hit by the truck, right, slammed by the truck. I'm still standing.
It's that beautiful cosmic washing machine that brings us through. But 8/8 was wonderful. We were very honored to be in our beautiful, loving state of North Carolina, and how beautiful it was to visit Pilot Mountain and be there during my first time of being at Pilot Mountain, and just the energy of really what it's like to be in such an open, vast, pure area, to feel the frequencies coming through. I know sometimes a lot of us are in our beautiful towns and cities, but to really leave those areas and feel just the vibration and just the openness of the sky and the elements and just the nature that really brings you home. And I find that Pilot Mountain is, wow, what a frequency and beautiful vibration is there.
That's all you want to share?
No, I'm just opening it up. I'm just opening the door up, because that was for those that didn't know that we were at Pilot Mountain.
So we didn't announce it, because a lot of times when we do have a major StarGate to work with, we don't announce where we're going to be, because there are sometimes frequencies that will be interfering with the actual higher dimensional work. So as a result of it, we don't announce it. We say we'll be somewhere. And once we're there, once we finish the work, then we can say where we were. But the details of what takes place, the fullness of it, we don't usually share that level of depth either, but just touch about certain things of it. So we will share maybe a little bit more onto what took place, because usually when we work with such a frequency, there's a lot happening. So,
and by the way,
yeah,
Harry Houdini in London didn't give us any clue that this past Wednesday was Mr. Demetrius's birthday.
Demetrius, it was your birthday?
Yeah, he goes, it was my birthday on Wednesday, but had no wished me a happy birthday. Did you even share it was on your birthday on Facebook, Demetrius?
Does your Facebook have an actual birthday, like it pops up? But I have.
We know you're about 1 billion years old, and you're an ancient soul that returned to Earth.
Happy solar return!
So stop, because if no one wished him a happy birthday, we have to do the honor.
Demetrius, that's like impossible unless did it not show up. Usually when there's notification, things come up, and I have been in a very different place.
Okay, so just 5 people that are on right now.
Let's sing Demetrius, happy birthday! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Demetrius. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
And many more. So before we even go into 8,
but let's do a Farsi one. Mariam, can we sing a happy birthday Farsi for Demetrius as well? Michael, you can join.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Okay,
Mariam,
ready? 1, 2, 3. تولد تولد تولدت مبارک 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 تولدت مبارک بیا شمع رو فوت کن که 100 سال زنده باشی بیا شمع رو فوت کن که 100 سال زنده باشی مبارک مبارک تولدت مبارک 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 تولدت مبارک. Happy birthday, Demetrius!
Feliz cumpleaños. It is of great honor, a great blessing that we welcome your solar return to another beautiful year, a beautiful greatness of prosperity, abundance, and just all the love that we can shine from our hearts so that you can feel the vibration and the beauty that is here for you. So I hope that this birthday can bless you infinite amount of times, no matter if you didn't receive, because we
always celebrate you.
And we believe
always celebrate.
We believe birthdays are not just for a day, it's for a week, it's for a month. So we're honored to celebrate this now and honor that your birthday is for today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Caitlin and Lisa, for joining.
And maybe we can all share our birthday wishes for Demetrius. Demetrius, I have one for you. I wish the ascension frequencies lighten up and lighten up and lighten up and lighten up for you, so you don't have to feel any more tired for all that incredible space that you are holding for the collective. So much love. That's my birthday wish to you.
And my birthday wish to you, Demetrius, is I hope that your sacred voice can be heard around the world to awaken so many in the wisdom that you share from your heart and just the love that you exude and the kindness and just the actions that you do in supporting us, I hope that can come infinite amount of times back to you because of what the grace and beautiful genuality you show, that can fully wrap around your spirit and just remind you that great, magnificent, divine, inspiring, powerful, special, incredible soul that you are to you.
Yeah. And you're going to get the other birthday wishes here.
Yeah.
So wonderful. See, Demetrius, you're always with us in the center. You're always right here. Look, your energy is always with us. You're right there.
Crystal that I found in Asheville. I showed Honey. It's like, look at this beautiful geo right here, and it just talked to me. And so what we had to do is we had to anchor it because these two right here are helping anchor the crystalline light that shines.
I'm so sorry if you missed it. We didn't see it. So sorry, Demetrius. Please do know you are deeply loved, deeply celebrated.
You can give us a heads up. Did you put it on? Because in Facebook,
well, Facebook usually they have the date that it shows.
But some people choose not to put
it
in. Did you? Just out of curiosity, Demetrius, did you place your birthday on Facebook? Did it actually? Does it show up as an icon? Because some people don't, which is okay. No judgment. We're just.
Did you put a 1 billion year old?
Yeah. Did you put 000000000?
1 billion year old star.
But we love you, brother, and we honor you, and we thank you, and we send it across from sea to shining sea.
Wow. So, hi, Lisa. Hi, Caitlin. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, wow. Okay.
He has. So strange. I don't know why. I know haven't we had the craziest internet from Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday was like crazy. We kept getting cut out.
We would get updates. We would get updates.
But we have to celebrate it this way. So here's a candle right here lit up for you too.
Yes, Lisa. Fidel's birthday was yesterday.
Fidel and also Terry Lynn and Daniel.
Danny's birthday
Lots of beautiful August.
We're very blessed.
Beautiful, beautiful energy of this Leo going into Virgo. So may you all celebrate that Leo energy. So let's get back to 8-8. So the 8-8 preparation sometimes is, again, like we usually don't announce where we're going to be because just to protect that frequency field. And for several years, I was in Shasta for that. And then one year I was blessed enough to share that space with Michael, which was 3 years ago. We got to be in there, and so mystical and magical. And so our beautiful sacred sister Hillary is in Shasta right now. So excited for her. She gets to experience it. So North Carolina, this particular place in Mount Pilot, which I was blessed to experience last year, I needed to be by myself there and not Michael with me. It was very important, that part last year. And this year for us to be together, because this vortex here on the East Coast of United States is a very profound and major vortex. The way I receive it is equivalent in its city of light underneath, that is in Mount Shasta. And the way the major grid line runs through it is the Arcadial grid line and the Serpent grid line. And that the Serpent grid line connects to Bermuda, which I've done quite a bit of work, and hits all the way to Brazil, which I've done a lot of work. And then coming from all the way from Glastonbury through, Maine and New York and Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Georgia, Atlanta, and going all the way, passes through to Mexico City. And this one particularly is the Atlantis line on this side, which there's a lot of Atlantis energy that we've been dismantling, reshifting, the reprogramming, and my work specifically between the Europe and United States, this particular Atlantic Ocean, clearing the energy line of the breath the trachea of Gaia through the rose dragon line and bringing the Magdalene voice, Magdalene consciousness from the Middle East, from Dubai through Europe, bringing it here to opening it and expanding it with the breath of the Magdalene and the Magdalene consciousness and her voice and keys and codes of light. And then bridging it through the US, through this East Coast, extending it all the way to West Coast, so bridging the Atlantean Lemurian energy, the sacred divine feminine, sacred divine masculine. There's a lot integrated into this place. So that's why I don't discuss much of it, because once we get on the land, when we get there, there's specific time we get it. We get there and we call to it, and we don't really want people to really be there. So it's usually early in the morning, and going into our prayers, and then going and finding the place where we can sit and then open ourselves and start doing the work internally on the land. So on that beautiful Saturday, 8/8, it was very interesting because last year was so sunny, but when we wanted to go, it was all cloudy and also a bit of, sprinkly, little bit, but it was foggy.
It was like dewy.
More fog, quite a bit of fog. So as we drove up to, and it was interesting because Michael from the highway couldn't even see the mountain, and I was so excited to experience this with Michael, because it's one of the most pristine, energetic lands that I've experienced. It's so clean, the energy, because around it is really untouched, which is so refreshing, and such a profound Native American energy of ancestors that are very, very active.
Quite a bit of rock beings.
And ancient rock beings from Atlantis remaining there to bring the knowledge and the activation, but the more of the purity I felt for me. So anyway, we got there early enough, right at 8 o'clock, so we were able to lap around the mountain and then drive all the way. And it was so beautiful because midway in between, we could see we were above the clouds, and suddenly it's sunny. I was like, oh my goodness. So we arrived right at 8:07. I'm like, Michael, come. So right at 8:08, we were able to be in this peak of it, to be able to see our view, the actual summit.
It was beautiful at the Vista, where with most summits, you have to hike up, you have to find a trail. But with Pilot Mountain, the beauty is once you get to the very top, there's a short trail that takes you to the direct view of Pilot Mountain. And what's magical is with all the clouds there, the sun was shining on the mountain, and you really couldn't see the land below. And it was, and to stand there, it felt like this like mystical scene out of like the Far East, that you could just see the energy. You could hear the birds. You can hear all
very Avatarish, the movie, wasn't it?
And you could just feel the lushness of all that was surrounded by, let alone be, for those that have been in North Carolina, which many of you have been in, there's such a special feeling there, especially in Western North Carolina. This was a little more Eastern, but to be there on such a powerful day and not to have so many people. I mean, we got there pretty early, but to be there and just to feel the vibration and to really look at this peak, it's like really this plateau of how special it is, because when you look at it in the clouds line, there was nothing surrounded around you. It was like this one little, like it's like this cherry popping through, and this one peak, and to be surrounded by greenery, to be in an elevation where you could feel the pureness of the oxygen, because down below you could feel the humidity, you could feel the dew and the fog, and before, when you rise higher.
So this is right at 8:07, 8:08, and that's the summit that we were going to. We would have to take the trail to get there to do the work.
Which the trail, when you come from the little vista view, you go down, and then obviously you can't climb to the very top of it. There's a trail that circles around it,
and this is what you could see. The fog was under. We were lifting. We were above it. That's the video.
Yeah, very, very powerful.
Very mystical.
Very mystical and very beautiful. Hi, Terry Lynn. Happy birthday to you, dear sister. Thank you for joining us from France, from beautiful, beautiful Europe. What a blessing it is to see you. And you get to celebrate your solar return with our dear brother Demetrius.
Yes,
look at that.
So beautiful.
Wonderful.
So much love. Birthday
Thank you
celebration.
for joining us. Wow.
And look, see, this is like one of the rock beings. And I'll show you again, like, for example, some of you, you've seen the pictures. Like, look at these this plant, right? They're very, very small. You have to enlarge it to see it. I mean, it's just so look at that one. And this is me standing next to it. 1 second. Like, look, there's where I am. I mean, it's quite remarkable. And then I'll show you. So we had to go around. This is where the summit is.
And it's beautiful because it wasn't a strenuous hike.
No.
It was, very simple, it didn't require like, having climbing over rocks and like putting on.
And this is when we're on the summit. You get to see the other mountains around. And then I'll show you. So finally we found a spot. So to find a spot is the key. To then set up and go into our experience, which we did the video. It is all silent because didn't share what happened. So then let me show you this magnificent cave then we found there.
I was right around the corner.
And then here's our jumping photos, just so you can see it. The celebration is done. Quite amazing. We always have to play a little bit after. And we found this, there's a little bit of a light language I'm doing in here in transmission. And then finally, I want to show, look at this. I mean, the formation is amazing, the experience. And I will also share this with you. And finally, this beautiful tree that we found, we had to sit. Anyway, so the process took a while, and maybe we share a little bit into what took place in there. So when we sit and there are individuals, going, and that's what's interesting, because you have some people going, and we like to be there early enough so we're not really disturbed. But I always ask for the invisible shield to be placed upon us, so we kind of disturb and we kind of like not really seen, which is so nice where we were. People were walking by, but we just get right into the space to do what we needed to do. Would you like to share what you fulfilled, what you actually did? Maybe use discernment, what you want to actually share.
I mean, I feel that, I know that even before meeting Honey, on powerful days, on that I felt called to, a lot of times I go directly to the land and connect myself to Source Light and to Mother Gaia, and bring myself into complete divine unity, honoring the sacred divine masculine and feminine with me, but as the sacred divine masculine in this incarnation, to bring that love and light through me and anchoring that. And what I found was really powerful about this place was I could really feel the Atlantis energy very, very strong there. I'm
going to put this here as you sorry about that. Go ahead. I'm going to record this part as you're sharing.
Okay,
because
so when we were there, it was funny because as Honey said, I'll let Honey kind of do her little thing because it's distracting a little. So we'll go ahead.
I apologize.
It's
Just
okay.
1 second.
So it was interesting because when we were sitting in meditation, part of it was, not allowing others to distract you. But as I was sitting there, I heard a little girl in the background be like, "Mommy, look, there's seashells here. There's seashells here." So it felt like there was just so much Atlantis energy that when I went into it, I just directly connected to this spot and could feel that this was a very, very, very powerful vortex that we knew previously that connected to different grid lines. So as I started to bring the first of all, it was like white light surrounded by gold. As that energy started to come within me, what I was aware of is I started to work with the 7 sacred flames. And as the 7 sacred flames went around me, I visualized and saw that this energy was coming through me, around me, and then was lighting up the grid lines from all the connections. And I could see it coming all the way to Glastonbury. I saw one going to Greece. I saw one going to Hawaii. I saw one going to Mexico, one going to Brazil, to Bermuda. So that energy started to build. And then what I've done, even before I met Honey, is I go directly into into Mother Earth, and I just vibrate, emanate, and illuminate the highest power of love that I can feel with myself, and then pulsate that outward. And as that was starting to pulsate that, as I was pulsating it outward, then it took me into this really interesting vision where I literally saw myself transmuted back in time, where Honey and I were actually living at the base of this mountain, and saw us actually going up to the mountain, but doing ceremonies on the very top of Pilot Mountain. And as we were doing ceremonies, I saw myself as an ancient elder moving my hand. And I've seen this before in Miami, where there were rainbow energies moving around. It was like these rainbow flares. And it was so powerful because as that energy was moving around, it was surrounding Pilot Mountain. And I could feel that centrifugal force that was moving around me, through me, as this beautiful tutorial field coming up around all of Earth. So as that was moving through, I could see that the rainbow light, but specifically out of the rainbow light that was coming in, the golden Christed frequency that I know that I'm working with Yeshua coming through, and then in circulating life, purifying, transmuting, and really bringing the highest level of love and light. And it took me through a lot of different visions. It took me through a moment where it was just a lot of sadness, but sadness and joy, like the sadness of reconnecting to my ancestry that I could feel that was around me and almost coming through me and through the mountain, because many times I would just look upward at the mountain, like behind me, to feel like, am I up there? Because at one point I felt like I was in the mountain, below the mountain, and on top of the mountain. And all those energies were centrifugally going through. And then at one point I saw in the four corners, it was coming out and then crossing. And that just took me to this just euphoric bliss. There was a lot of tears coming out. There was a lot of energy of just great gratitude that could be in that place. And then at the very end, I started to see these golden triangles. And the golden triangles were connecting to a portal to the Sirius Gateway. And as it was coming through, I could just feel myself in those rainbow frequencies that were coming through my heart, through the portal, connecting to Sirius Gateway, and then emanating outward. And I thought what was so powerful about that was at the very end of the day at 4.
No, not yet. No,
oh,
you're not going there, because I just want to say what happened, because then we'll share what happened.
Okay, gotcha. So, and there were many more things, but those were the ones that I wish to share today, because it was such an honor and a gift to connect those frequencies, to stand in the highest level of my divine masculine, and connecting all of those grid lines, and then receiving what I saw throughout majority of the transmission, many keys and codes and geometric figures that were just come pouring in, and just receiving that with the highest level of gratitude and appreciation.
You finally got to share. There was a lot that had taken place. Yeah. So I'm going to grab my thing, because I'm going to show you what I draw as well, what was taking place. See the little notepad. I think the notepad is here, right?
And for those that do go down to North Carolina, it is a very accessible park. Interesting enough, they only allow as many people that could fit in the parking lot, so it doesn't get that crowded, but they close it off once the parking lot's full at the top. So recommending you guys, if you do choose to visit, weekdays are probably a bit easier than weekends. If you choose to go through weekends, then it's good to go to very early morning, because when we left, it was already full.
So while that was happening on Michael's end, so we do have this video that we turned on and just videoing us as this was happening. So on my end, what was happening was Magdalene has been on the land with me. We've experienced certain things when we do the planetary work. So I move into a place where I start working directly with the different grid systems. And my role within that place is to restructure the grid. And first is the purification and clearing. Once we're sitting in this vertical axis through the central sun and through Helios vistas, as well as the the central sun and the galactic sun. So mine, as I sit there, I have to first shift my template to move into the corridor of Jupiter. The Jupiter corridor is very important for those of us that work directly with the StarGate opening. When the peak of this is open, there's some of us that are able to work with the frequency that is able to come down to earth. So we are able to, let's say, the best way I can say is when there's this expansion of the actual Stargate, the streaming is a blasting ray of light. It's very much like flashing light. So what happens is that you have to shift your template to be able to actually be in front of its presence, is for lack of a better word, to when it vibrates, then the template moves to its different geometric patterns. So then through the sound and the coding that I began to work it to be able to allow it to move through my dimensional bodies and then into this template to then my physical template be used as a vehicle in which can straight come through and connect to the heart of Gaia's crystalline diamond heart. And that is to anchor it for the golden age. So I'm working with the golden light. So that's the first part. But once I get into that place, my eyes completely cross and then I move out. I'm sort of in the periphery. Then I start working with the grid lines. So with the grid lines, there's 3 different grid systems that is the purification through the breath to start clearing it. And my job is specifically with this first layer one that is along this line that it's been now 8 years with clearing this ginormous diamond that is between Europe and east coast of America. So it's the Atlantic energy because there are 9 crystal light temples that are buried in the water, and these still contain the hijacked aspect of Atlantis, which then has translated for a while, that has dismantled the humanity's blueprint, if you want to call it that, and has not given the divine power back to them because it's disabled the DNA template. So first is the clearing of this, and within this clearing, then it also ties into the many, let's say, Masonic temples that are built on this grid line that utilize their rituals for remaining in power. So we go to dismantle this, well, not me and a few others that work with this, to reshift that underneath first. So there's the light comes in, purification breath, and that's where I work with the dragons, that's where I work with the voice of the Magdalene, that's where I work with the sound, bring it in to start working with this. So I was working with this diamond, and through this diamond there's it's hard to be able to see but through this, then from top of Gaia, so there's also in the hollow earth and the cities of light, so that it can fully be accessed. Then works with the second grid system, then work into the third grid system, which is the golden liquid light. And through this, what also is to bring the old template of the masculine and the old template of the feminine, and to rebalance it in harmonization of the sacred feminine, sacred masculine template, and the return of our spiritual gifts from our higher dimensional body that is embedded within our DNA. So that way we can have access to this, but the vibration has to first be set on the ground so that the streaming that comes in can be anchored somewhere so then it can become accessible. So from that place, there was a lot working within it. So in the video, you'll see me moving. There's all kinds of things happening, and that's literally taking place. Then connecting the lines again from Greece, going through to Hawaii, and back through this Arcadia line, to the Serpent line, and the Bermuda particularly, that portal has been closed for a while, which is so great. From August of 2010, that's been closed. There is one major one in Philippines that has to do with the sex trafficking. I have not yet been able to touch that because it does require a few others to do that work. And still, also this particular line is a lot in clearing the energetic line so it cannot be hijacked by the opposing forces, and also it cannot harm these sacred children anymore. So the sex trafficking cannot be handled through the underneath tunnel. So it's so detailed with here, which I won't get into it here. So I was able to accomplish what needed to be done, what I usually get in this place, and streaming it and allowing it to come through. And within the mountain, within the North Carolina mountain, there are the many ships still that hide. They're the Syrian ships. The Syrian ships through the Syrian High Councils have been shared that are placed in there. And they're still carrying many of the crystals of Atlantis that have been unfortunately programmed by the opposing forces. So there's a lot of the clearing of the crystalline fields so that they can start to vibrate their true vibration, so they can synchronize back with the Gaia's diamond heart that is now pulsing this diamond ray. So it's the diamond frequency, which represents the crystalline matrix of our soul inception as a KRISTOS light, as the Christed being. So again, these are all part of what takes place in here. So of course, working then with the royal lions, and to be able to bring some of the languages in. So I'll share a couple of things with you. This was from the Aladarians, but this was one of the ones that I was working with. Doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I do have to draw them in, to bring them in, and then place them somewhere. Let me see if there was one more that I wanted to share with you. So having said that, all of this was done. So after all of this was done, after this was finished, Michael and I went, and usually we have some kind of sign that the work has been completed. So from there, we were able to leave, and our dear sister Tanya from South Carolina was joining us, and she was just tired. She wanted to come and join us. We said we're going to be in North Carolina. Why don't you just come see us? And it's usually this galactic reunion. So we went, we enjoyed ourselves, we walked around, we felt so good. We came back, waited for Tanya. Tanya arrived, and we had told each other, we're like, it would be so nice for Tanya to come. So, and we're taking a little time with this detail, because when we work at this level, there is then the aftermath of triggering what takes place, because we're talking about template shifting. There's the octave shifting, and all of this, it will play a part. So Tanya arrived, we had a good time, and we're trying to figure out what to do. We always get so giddy, the three of us come together, because it's like such a soul reunion.
And it was funny because obviously the most important thing, I think, the whole day was that night we didn't get any sleep. Actually, many times I choose to sleep in a different room because of all the activations going on. So before we even left,
Friday night?
Friday night, before we even left, I was up at 3 a.m. just feeling the energies and feeling the activations. So
we both didn't
we barely got any
all.
sleep. And so when Tanya came in, I just was suggesting, Tanya, gosh, it'd be nice to be sit by a body of water. It'd be nice to get into nature, just to ground the frequencies and, just express. And it was interesting because afterwards, Honey was just exhausted and tired. And she's like, well, let's just go into the town and get some, Indian food, because that's something that we always love to do. Well,
when we meet Tanya, we're like, this Indian food so we can ground the energy, because this really
we went to a place called Winston-Salem, which we learned that there was Winston-Salem, and it's a town joined where Wake Forest University was. But when we got there the day before, it was absolutely quiet. But this day we chose a street that we had more loud noise, more distractions, more energies that were felt like city. well, maybe the south side. It was just distracting. So we got out of that. I was like, let's find somewhere. And so Honey's energy started to get tired and tired. She was like lying in the back seat. So we found this beautiful lake and sat by the lake, but it was just like this energy of just humid and sucked in where it would just, we had a small little piece.
And it's a lot of ghost discarded energy there, just FYI.
Yeah. So as Honey started to go more and more and more, I looked at Tanya and I just felt this, call, like, let's just go back. Like, I think, Tanya needs to feel this energy because it was only a half an hour away.
Mount Pilot.
Back to Mount Pilot.
Let's go back to Mount Pilot.
So Honey was like, let's do this. And Honey kept getting quieter and quieter. And once she hit the ground, I'm like,
I just needed to pass out.
She was like, once she passed out, I was like, I'm going back, because once we drove out of Winston-Salem toward Mount Pilot, it's amazing. And you guys probably see this when you leave DC, when you leave London, how the energy opens up. So we're driving. We go and we start to see the clouds. We're starting to see rain on the side. So we drive all the way up. And Honey's like, listen, why don't you guys just go see so Tanya can, witness
No, so
it.
because when we got there, it was starting to rain. I said, I'm just going to stay in the car. I'm wiped out.
It was drizzling. It was like that mist rain. So
right.
What was so magical was Tanya and I went up there, and as it started to rain, we sat in the car for a little while, and everyone started to leave. So we go up, and I show her Mount Pilot, and what was so magical was... So
they go to where Michael and I were at 808, just
right.
that beginning part, not the summit.
So we go to where the beginning part is. At 4:44, this is what we saw. If you can look clearly, there's a rainbow.
Finish it?
Yeah, there's a rainbow that's going from the bottom into Pilot Mountain, which just gave me all the goosebumps, because at that moment I connected with the rainbow rays, and it was phenomenal to be above the rainbow. And if you look clearly, look where the rainbow at the top of the arch is going. It's going direct. You can't see
to the summit.
You can't see it, but it's going directly into Mount Pilot. And it was just phenomenal for Tanya to be there, for us to be there, and just to see the confirmation that here's this rainbow. I don't know how many times you guys have actually been above a rainbow, but to see that going in there directly at 4:44 was just this beautiful confirmation. We were sitting there, I had tears, and I was like, wow, look how magical it was that we came down, we spread out the blanket.
And Tanya is also in her diamond crystalline body. She's also one who in South Carolina has been joining us every week, Tuesday night, anchoring the crystalline diamond light into Gaia for the humanity. So she's part of this. So it was so beautiful. And she's one of our amazing lesbian friends who is with her sacred union partner. And she carries that beautiful rainbow frequency.
And all we were looking for, which was funny, was just a place to put the blanket down, connect to Mother Earth. And I said, what do you think, Tanya's like, this place is so much nicer because...
But that was the confirmation.
Right.
That was the confirmation of the word.
And not only one rainbow, but before we left, we also saw on the horizon another rainbow that we could see hitting it. And so it was beautiful to note that and really watch and really to have a sacred time where you can be on top of a mountain, feel the energy. You know how summer storms are, like they come, they go. So as the rain comes, which is like a mist, then you see the sun come out, and it was just like this beautiful feeling.
It was so nourishing for our hearts.
Yeah, I mean,
just heart medicine. Now, Michael.
I mean, I could live on a mountain. For me to sit there and just watch and hear the birds, hear the people.
But what's so interesting is last year when I was there on the mountain, when I was all silent, nobody else there because it was on a Friday. I mean, just nobody was there. I went by myself. I received the Native Americans there, and I remembered, my gosh, this meeting with the elders, and I cried and I cried and I cried so much. And I remember they showed me this place beneath the mountain, one of the places, and they said, this is your home. And I looked down, it was this one farm with this red roof, and I just wept, and I was being called to go knock on the door, but I was like one of those, I'm like, I'm too scared to go do this. And it was so interesting because in this experience, a year later, here's Michael who's with me, he's experiencing this, that we were there, so we were able to put it together. Oh wow, this is where this is coming around for one of our incarnations where we were here, and this is the land we were on, and it was just so if you look romantic.
If you look very closely, you'll see all of these trees, and then you'll see a green opening right there, kind of more at the right here. And so that was the place that that was where the farm.
It's hard to see.
It was hard to see, but that's where the farm was actually positioned there, because when you're looking down, it's actually the only opening next to the field. So if you see
it's hard to see it.
If you see the green here in the field, this is where the farm is, and it was just beautiful to.
So it was like another confirmation for us, right? So then we go back, we're all exhausted, we sleep, we wake up. I wake up really early in the morning. Michael sleeps in the other room, Tanya sleeps, so we can have, and this next day, Sunday, since we only had one day with Tanya, we wanted to go to Hanging Rock so we can just go to the waterfalls and hike and all of that. So at 8 in the morning, I'm making breakfast, and Tanya at 8:03 calls her son, to her 7-year-old son, to talk to her. So I'm very close. Michael and I are both very close to her son. Michael is in his room. Tanya and I are in the kitchen. So this is the next day. So we're 25 minutes outside Mount Pilot. So Tanya hangs up the phone at 8:07 with her son after we say hi to him. At 8:08, kid you not, the whole house starts shaking. Tanya and I look at each other like, oh my God, it's an earthquake. So I run for the door for us to get out, and the whole thing is moving. So Michael is like, whoo, like as if he was stoned. He's like, wow, that was cool. Meanwhile, me and Tanya like, that was an earthquake. So we look up.
I was actually finishing up my angelic message in the room on my bed, and I was.
But we didn't know it was 8:08. Yeah, we didn't know, but it was just right there. We're like,
at that moment, it was wild, because I was finishing up my angelic message in the other room, and I started to watch it, and I felt earthquakes in California, but nothing as strong as this. And we were in a cottage, which is, had a basement, so we were kind of above, which you could feel the old cottage and the structure of it move back and forth, and it was like, wow, because I watched the walls and everything kind of shimmer back and forth, and it wasn't like to the point where things were falling down. It was interesting just to feel yourself move with it, and also be in awe of like, wow, this is really cool.
So we find out the earthquake happens exactly to our west, about 45 minutes of where we are. So what is so interesting, where it happens is a place that originally I wanted to go with Michael so that we can spend the time before Tanya said come, so we can go mining for the crystals and have like a romantic time together and our part of our play day. It is fascinating how it works. So when we find out it was at 8:08, it's like the stuff you can't make up. Like
we were at a restaurant right before Tanya left, and we were talking to the wait. We were talking late. Like, is it normal for an earthquake to happen? Because we found out that day it was a 5.1. She's like, you know what? It was so strange because I knew exactly what time it was. I was getting ready to hit my alarm, and I was in bed, and I looked at the clock, and it said 8:08. And we looked at each other and like, wow, 8:08, 24 hours after we did the planetary healing. Yeah. Right within 45 miles of the epicenter, 45 minutes from the epicenter, and how magically divine that it was positioned, and for us just to like step back and be like,
but this is what happens when you do work with these frequencies. Now, whether it was a man-made earthquake, I don't know that, but we usually get some kind of confirmation, but this one was a double confirmation. And part of it was I felt Michael and I were working with the double diamond frequency. As he was in his diamond, I was in my diamond, and really working with this diamond. And the double diamond is that a lot has to do with this twin ray frequency, which I don't really believe in twin flames or anything like that, but it's this diamond to be able to anchor it that has to do with the unity consciousness of the sacred divine feminine, sacred divine masculine harmonizing in one. And this is part of the golden age, and it's a huge part of 2020, harmonizing this relation. So there's a lot of encoding within it.
And it was also interesting when I came back and explained to my mom what happened about the rainbow that we saw, and also the rays of the rainbow, and just the rainbow energy that was moving through. She was like, wow, that's interesting. And she started talking about, as many have seen on the recent posts, of old tapes and old speakers from our spiritual retreats of a beautiful woman by the name of Connie Newton, who back in the 80s was an influential international spiritual teacher that traveled throughout the world. My mom's like, that's interesting you talk about the rainbow rays, because Connie Newton spoke about that when we move from our 3D, from our old Earth to our new Earth, we're going to be in our rainbow bodies. And of course, we heard about the rainbow tribe. We've heard about so much of the rainbow frequencies. But when she said that, I got like this tingling, because it's like, wow, there is, beyond the 7 rays of light, it's also interesting to look at the rainbow light, because during that transmission, I also do remember, there's still pieces that are coming through that I remember. There were rainbow bridges that were connecting. And I've seen this in other dreams and other meditations, where there's rainbow bridges that connect us to higher dimensionality. And as those rainbow bridges come, that's during that day, I also saw the city of lights, like in gold and pristine. And these rainbow bridges were also areas where they brought forth. So my mom reminds me, because I was
these
only
are the
5.
tapes. So Michael just brought. I wrote a whole post about it. This is like 40 years ago, totally timeless. Like,
I went to my
this one tape is about the crystal children, 41 years ago.
1980.
No. 39 years ago. I mean, it's incredible. So we're going to be listening to this Sunday on our drive.
So
it's precious.
So part of it was. My parents were involved in a beautiful spiritual conference called Life Spectrums for over 20 years. And they inundated me as a child to take part of it. They didn't have youth groups. So they would have key speakers during the 80s from Deepak Chopra, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Jane Houston, just those that wanted to bring forth their visions and their psychic nature. And when I went home the other night, I said, Mom, do you have any cassette tapes? Because, my 2004 old CRV that she gifted me when I came back from Mexico has a cassette player and also a CD player. So I started to put them in to listen to them. And it's like, how amazing to listen to someone in the 80s, from the beginning of the 80s, and talking about the same things that are happening.
Right, the Great Awakening. They're talking about it.
We have to become more aware, and we're sitting there
and be in our light bodies.
Be in our light bodies. Yeah. I'm sitting there thinking, I was like this little munchkin running around with these people. I wasn't even able to sit in these, these huge conferences because I was so young. I was just part of the youth group playing around meditation, the crystals, all of the youth activities. But while that was going on the frequencies, they would have huge ceremonies where thousands of people would come throughout the whole country and world to listen to these keynote speakers at night. They would have a keynote speaker every single night for a week.
And Michael's parents were the organizers.
And they were part of that organization for 20 some years. And so that was my little, I call it E-Town because it was Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. But if you ever went to a place that, Miriam, it felt like Harry Potter land. You'd go there and there'd be people all around just vibrating these frequencies of energies. And of course, you never shook hands, you just hug. People would hug for minutes. They would hold each other and they'd be like, wow, I recognize you from another life. Or we had powerful people like this man named Laraji. He was an African-American, just wore orange because that was his, he just wanted to, ignite the orange flame of just holding his light and his sacral chakra.
You should do a full video on that one.
It's so powerful, but she has a whole box of tapes. I'm like, wow, these tapes are interesting to see how this has been, brought forth in the late 80s, in the late 70s, early 80s, and have been brought forward. So it's fun to go back to those early years because all that was in the frequency.
So we're going to get to listen to those tapes a little bit more as we're driving this Sunday. Just so precious. We had to speak out. Hi, Terry, love you.
Love you so much.
So coming back then there was just integration. We came back on Tuesday. My entire body, the first thing that happened was we passed through the Fredericksburg, and that energy is very dark. There were a lot of.
We were on the bloodiest battle, the Civil War route through.
And that we had gotten a cabin to stay in, but I just couldn't. And Michael and I got into this, of course, when there's that expansion of light, and there was something again, he was tired. He wanted to see not communicating clearly and kind of projecting from that place. And I've gotten to this place. Yeah, I call it the Mastudo. His Mastudo came out. And I just, frankly, when I'm tired myself and I've been holding this space or working with this, and I'm not projecting from my tired, I'm not bringing it on. So I certainly don't want somebody to dump their, trash on me. And then often, we women have been sort of these containers where, unfortunately, our partner or our children or others, when they're tired or they're hungry or they're sleepy, they kind of like project or dump, but they're not necessarily aware. It's just something that they have done over the years until they become aware enough to then create a change, and they continue to do that. And so that's been something between us to bring so much awareness in our union. It's so important to be conscious of this. Like, I don't want, you're allowed to be tired, you're allowed to be sleepy, you're allowed to be exhausted, but you're not allowed to project that vibration onto me, like for me to just be the dumping ground. No, that this is not okay. So this has been something that we've been really working through. So Michael did have that, and that really triggered me. And
we were going through such
civil war land.
It was like the battle of all battles.
It was awful. I was like, Michael, I don't want to be here. I just want to go
when you go through
home.
Virginia and you're feeling the frequencies of the energies, and all of a sudden you're realizing there might be a little more powerful energy moving through you, spot check to see where you are, because a lot of times not only is what's happening within you in this dimension, there could be a lot of old dimensions and energies being cleared through, because Virginia definitely has quite a bit of civil war,
a lot of
clearing,
and
nothing against Virginia. It's a beautiful state, but sometimes the energies can really be active, especially when you're opening from gateways, when light is being shined on areas that are being dispelled into the love. And so that, brought
so there's a lot of that energy, and became my entire, when we got back Tuesday morning, I just came to wash my face. My back went into spasm. I have never experienced anything like that in my life. I've heard people when it goes to spasm, but like it was literally like crooked and couldn't even breathe. I called Michael, and I'm like, Michael, so he had to start like working on me, and I knew it was the intensity and the frustration.
That was a lot.
And the 6 I drove straight, and there's a lot of that, and also this discussion, and try to come in like this energy is clearing. It has no place for the golden age. It cannot just keep repeating, and it has to be addressed, and a lot of this. And onto the weekend, because then my former spouse was going away, so my younger son was at home, and then he wanted to stay at home by himself, which he's older enough, but there's a lot around that. So let's just say from then Thursday night, where my younger son had come to spend the night. Mm-hmm. That was so that created this fight between him and his father. Then from there was this thing we were dealing with. He wanted to move out with his brother, and there was a lot going there. Then
that night he was supposed to come over. I was at my parents'.
No, that's Sunday night. So this is
Thursday night.
Thursday night, yeah.
Thursday night, because you remember I came back from my mom's on Thursday. Right. And that was the time when.
Oh yeah, because we had Friday tea time on Friday.
Yeah, so he was supposed to come over Thursday, but he didn't because
he came late.
Yeah, well, he came late, but he also, he was dishonest. Remember, he was dishonest to you, and you guys got into a huge.
No, that wasn't it. That was on Sunday. So Thursday.
Listen, remember, I was at my mom's house for Wednesday and Thursday, and I was. Or Tuesday and Wednesday, and I was supposed to come over. No, you weren't.
Tuesday night we had meditation here. You're missing the dates.
Remember the 2 days I went home to spend the night?
That's this week. Hold on.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So what happened was Thursday night. This happened with my son. So then creating this space. Michael had spent the night at his mom on Thursday night. This is last week we're talking about, not last night.
Gotcha.
And so then in the morning, then we're trying to figure out with my older son. But what happened was we had our Friday tea time. I got up in the middle of the night. I didn't sleep. I felt so bad. I felt awful. And what was happening to me was there was this data of gold digital data around me. And I was feeling such vertigo. and nausea as things were just spinning around me, and it couldn't come down, and the neck ache, headache, pressure ache, and of course then this thing that happened with my son, and there's a lot of things that surfaced also in me. I woke up feeling horrific, just truly horrific. It was the worst ascension symptom of 2020 that I'd experienced. I'd messaged Michael middle of the night, like, I am in trouble. Like, I really need help, because the nausea wouldn't stop with this digital data. So again, this is several days after I was good, but then boom, I got hit a few days later. And sometimes this does happen, because what is happening is all these other things are coming, have now been surfaced by what you work with, and now you have to address them, and they have to integrate. The integration time takes time, and it's not necessarily fun, because a lot of revelation is taking place. And when that level of StarGate light you are exposed to, anything that is just hidden deep within will also be surfaced. So you can't escape it. You have to clear it, and it's very, very tough.
Excuse me.
And a lot of compassion around it, but it is what it is. So, Michael, if you want to shut the door, please, my love. So Michael arrived, and I took a video. If some of you watched it, it was really, really bad. And another thing is, physically, it's very important to have some kind of body work done, so this energy can, the frequency can integrate, because from the other bodies, it's not quite integrating. So I knew better. I should have had the body work done on Monday, so I wouldn't go into this level of the level that it was. But everything happens for a reason too. So Michael came, we had to postpone the Friday tea time, and he started immediately working on me. He put the acupuncture needles for nausea to stop, and then he started working. And usually all the keys and codes are stuck in my atlas joint. So as soon as he started working with it and releasing this pressure from my neck and bodies, I was able to immediately have relief from the symptoms. And the digital data, like, imagine 3 feet across, there's like almost like this dome looking shape of data is sitting in my field that was making me so sick, until they started this flowing in. And within an hour and a half, I was completely fine. And I knew whatever that was, between whatever happened to StarGate, be ready. My template is getting reshifted, because I got to handle most things. And from there, then, let's just say from Sunday, a lot of personal things, which the video I posted on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, that is. From Sunday, there was this very difficult phase that I had to face with my younger son, and then this week with my older son. So what I'm experiencing is this has happened not first time, not second time, not third time, several times in the soul agreement between me and my sons, where we enter this space, which is extremely uncomfortable, and a lot is revealed, and it has to be faced, and it has to be addressed, and then there's a lot of hurt feelings that also are surfaced, and there is trigger response, trigger as a reaction versus response, that then it creates this chaos, and then there's this other energy within the parameters that wants to pull in on these areas, and there's a lot of anger in me that had built up, where my younger son acted like he did. He's a teenager, not that makes it an excuse, but that arrogant teenager, and that opened this trigger that
acted like your previous husband.
I did. And also it was a bit of what I experienced with Michael earlier that week, where I was just the frustration. I've hit my limit. I don't want this as a reality anymore. Like, I'm standing up, and I'm just so tired of it. So that really kicked into the gear. And I shared that quite a bit in that video that you all can see on the live stream.
It gave what I feel was one of the biggest gifts. Go ahead.
So what happened from there was, then I took an action in which my son was very shocked and very upset at, and but I knew as a mother I needed to do that, and I needed to stand up, and again, out of love and out of bringing awareness to him, but in a very strong way. And yet inside of me, I wasn't happy with that action either. So that night was a lot of trouble. Michael had spent the night with his mom. He came back because just trying to figure out with his father, with his brother, and it was really, really tough. So middle of the night, I called in for help. I really called in for all the higher help. And I sat in the morning, early in the morning, I sat in my altar. I was not happy with the way it went. And I knew better. I knew what was happening as it has happened before. There's this space between me and my son. My younger son, the soul agreement, he's piercing, gets to my core. And I have to see within myself, even though the action of him was very, what we would consider wrong, rude, disrespectful, but I reacted so strongly to it. And from there, I really hurt him. That surprised him. I was not happy about that because the last thing I want is to hurt him. And from there, I saw this pattern in me from that place that Michael would do. I would respond the same, or my former spouse would do. I would respond because I've just had it, and or my brother, and it's often with that male energy, which has been a big part of my whole mission here on earth to work with this. So as a result of it, I really sat in the altar of Divine's mercy, asking. It is as much there are things I've forgiven. This is at a whole nother level. I need help. I can't do it by myself. I need this strength. Even though I'm in the right, this right has to go away. I need this pain to be lifted. There's so much pain in my chest, my heart. It has to be washed away. I can't take it anymore. That's what I can't take anymore. And so I just asked, and I knew I needed to find the strength to go talk to my sons and demonstrate to my sons how to do it differently. If you have done, let's say, wrong to somebody, how to apologize really clearly, which they know, but how to really take it to another level and to create the change. It doesn't happen because I've always heard, okay, I'm sorry, but then repeats. I'm sorry, repeats. I'm sorry, repeats, but never fully put into action. And that's what I was so frustrated, Michael, too. Like, you say it, but you repeat it, yet he wants to create the change, which is so beautiful. And then my younger son wants to create the change. So I went boldly facing my son with all my heart, so raw and open, both of them. I asked for forgiveness. I asked to demonstrate that this was not okay. I never want to hurt them by reacting. And I want to show them that's also when they react, what it's like. I don't want to do that. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to go take care of this pain and wash it. And that's what it's been this week, a lot of deeper forgiveness. And I want you all to know the level of forgiveness I've gone to is quite tremendous, and this is, again, another layer. So the combination with my sons and out of the love, and there's a lot of deep wounded pain that surfaced to wash and purify. And then onto my older son.
Before that, before that, because that's a lot, honey. I just want to just pause 1 second. In that, congratulations and the honor of you recognizing that forgiveness, because that forgiveness really opened. I feel like
it's a deeper forgiveness because I've done it. Right. I mean, we talk about very deep.
And I recognize from your father in all the levels, and forgiveness is a lifelong process. Yeah. It's a lot of times we can I know that you've done so much work and you've done the depths of the depth to forgive the unforgivable. Yet, as we all know, forgiveness is a constant level. And as we've already done it, life's going to keep coming back and seeing how we can forgive. And I honor that, because sometimes we can say we forgive, or what I feel many people understand as this is when they hear the word "I'm sorry," they no longer accept that as their forgiveness because they've heard that so many times. And it really, I find, even when me saying it and the person can't receive that, is because there's so much pain underneath that. There's so much pain that's like, I forgive, this is unacceptable.
No, it's because you've lost the trust.
Right.
Because it keeps repeating. You say, "I'm sorry," and you repeat it. "I'm sorry."
Under that loss of trust is the pain. And,
of course, right.
And so that pain, I feel, was beautiful, because what I've witnessed, and of course I've been, the catalyst, the trigger, the cause, all the energy that I've done in my own immaturity developing, and the energies that have come through, is the witnessing of that anger, which all of us have. All of us have that anger. And it's a question of, are we responding from the anger or reacting? And it was beautiful for you to really see that when in a state of anger, that anger it can come up with such fire that reaction can hurt so much. And to look deeply and be like, wow, it was beautiful when you held me that night. And we held each other. You cried,
so
I cried.
So Tuesday, that was that. I felt like I was just cracked open. What happened? I mean, I wrote and I sat back at the altar again, and I asked for divine's mercy. I was like almost like pleading to help me. And then we did the Tuesday night meditation, which was all about forgiveness, and even forgiveness of the ones that have done. I mean, I did so much with that forgiveness until I came and just held you and just.
And you started crying
in your arms.
It was beautiful.
I felt like I'm also asking you to forgive me for the amount of times that I reacted in the same, and I hurt you. Even though you have done the shit.
Right. But to cry and to let go, I feel it's a beautiful journey, because in that, you nailed it, in that compassion, Demetrius, in that love, it really opens a part of us, which I love what you said, is like, you don't want to hurt anyone. None of us want to hurt anyone. And part of that journey is recognizing, that split second response, that hair, that when a trigger comes up, there is a lot of pain underneath it, and how we navigate through that trigger by not directing, by not projecting, by not blaming, by not judging, and just allowing ourselves to fully witness what's happening, and then work through that energy and bring that energy even closer, because that's the energy really that we're forgiving. That's the energy that we're not only surrendering to, we're starting to slowly accept it, because once we accept it.
But let's speak of this, Michael, for a second, because there's this part where you have to stand up, because you don't want to be projected on anymore. You don't want the shit dumped on you anymore. You don't want to be disrespected anymore, dishonored. So there's this interesting balance of standing up and saying no, and then there's this place, because where that's coming from is the wounded child. So for me, there's again the amount of inner child healing that's taking place. This was another level again. So my wounded child meeting my son's wounded child, meeting that place, and really meeting it to create no more. So it's like taking that as, so for me, this was the next level. Okay, there's a part for me to stand up, but I don't want to stand up and create hurt to anyone anymore. I want to stand up and end this war. So it was really this moment of, I don't want this war in me anymore. I don't want it. Even though this person has done this, and I'm rightfully so, I want to give up the fight that it was rightfully done. Like, no, and can the love of divine mercy be bigger than me? So I can start. So it was really bringing the passion of my Christ. Can it rise? And I feel that's what happened for me on Tuesday. And then to then be able to go into forgiveness. And that's why I posted the note, if I've ever said anything, hurt you in any way, consciously, not consciously, but like really even unconsciously, I ask you to forgive me. And I am sorry. Like I'm really just cleaning more plate in this because I don't want to hurt anything and anyone. And even though hurt has been done to me so many times in this incarnation, I don't want to respond ever again like that.
And you
react. Yeah.
And what's so powerful about that is, eventually standing up and fighting for what your expression is, that will start to dissipate because you won't have to stand up for something.
I'm ending the fight.
Right, because
I'm ending the fight,
Michael. That pain underneath all that will start to dissipate.
Yeah.
And then there will be acceptance, and then there will be surrendering, openness, and then there will be gratitude.
And then joy is
joy out of it,
it.
so that there's no longer a fight, because it's almost like when we look at the things that upset us so much at an earlier age, and then we start going through this beautiful, magnificent ascension process and seeing what triggers are coming us to strengthen us, to give us greater patience, to give us greater compassion, to give us greater awareness and consciousness, to say there's even something bigger than that, because it may not even just be me, it may be on a planetary level. It may be in a level where we are asking for forgiveness because what's going to come down the plate in weeks, months, and years ahead, that this is the principle that once we forgive, ultimately, it's the mastery of letting go. And a lot of times we say we forgive, we say that we this, but anytime we go to the past and bring something up that's hurt us, technically we haven't fully forgiven it.
No, it hasn't, because it still has an impact.
Because it still has a charge. So,
and I feel,
so part of the reminder for all of us is, no matter how many times a person has hurt us, if we go back and say, you've done this many times, you've done this, yes, that's the truth. Yet if we still haven't forgiven the first or the last or any of them in between, that energy still hasn't forgiven. So somehow the universe is going to find a way through our closest beings, especially our opposite sex, to bring that example again, so it can be fully forgiven, because that energy is still within us, looking to be transformed, because as we're ascending, we want to let go of these older densities, these older programs that have had
and
a hold
there is
of us.
This consciousness letting go. Often people will do it in their mind, and that's okay too. But the true forgiveness is when you have it move through your spiritual body, your etheric body, your mental body. You take it into that emotional body, into the physical body, so it no longer has an impact. And that's the challenging part, to be able to go through it. So for example, in this space, there's also, you can forgive, of course, but you also, if you continue to keep yourself in a dynamic where let's say the perpetrator or the one that caused damage continues, then that forgiving energy is not able to be fully sustained, because it's still hammering. So 2 parts in this. This part for me was very much to go so deep in here, to take that, to be a living example once again for my sons, because they were like this, to demonstrate to them, okay, where are you going to learn this from? This is how your father did. This is the next way if you want to really have it not hurt anyone. Also, you can't just say a half-assed, I'm sorry, it's not felt, and then you repeat it. Taking responsibility, here's the responsibility. And that's the beautiful dynamic me and my sons share, to grow. And then once I do it, then they rise up. This has happened several times. And then once I do it, then for Michael to like, okay, I gotta really step this up. Like I'm gonna hold myself accountable, not do that. And the other part of it is, so when we allow to move our emotional body, then for example, let's say we're going to have to forgive a lot of these pedophilias, right, that have caused the harm. So how can we do that if we can have the trigger, right? So that's what's happening. There's a lot of this energy, and to be able to forgive is a profound gift, and it cannot be done in the head, because it will shut. You have to do it. It has to be brought through the emotional body. Like the last 3 days, I have whirlwind of emotions again. Go through each one, meet each one, wash away all, so it can fully transform through me. It cannot be done like that, which most people bypass it, but just in the mental body, and there's a disconnect, and like, oh, I'm okay, but then they really are not okay.
And ultimately, forgiveness does go through the heart, because it's through our love that and our compassion that is the root of it. When it comes through our heart, when we use the infinite power of divine love, our love within that allows the forgiveness, because for us to forgive, we have to have compassion. We have to have the virtues of what divine love is. And if we're not coming from divine love, and we're coming from
of course. So there is the range of emotion you go through to sit in there.
But what I'm saying,
once you sit in there, and you have to ask for the higher help to start breaking this to then move into the compassion, to begin having the courage to forgive, so it can free you.
Sure. And what I was exactly, and what I was expressing, it is that love within ourselves that is the ultimate. I mean, for me, it's the ultimate catalyst of really moving through. And I find what the biggest gift when we step back from it and even look at our divine missions, and what I put out toward the sacred divine feminine is, when we really look at the things that are being cleared now, there's been such a level of pain and suffering that the masculine has created on this earth. And there's been so many times where we've been in that form of masculinity and been the ones that have created.
That's right.
To really step back and be like, wow, myself, Nevan, Kian, Carl, we look at the patterns of like, are males creating this also to bring the forgiveness to a deeper level? Because a lot of times is we can be so caught into the emotions of it, but then we say, wow, the men in my life that have created the closeness of that, and each one of them are creating the exact same feeling and pattern, then that's also giving me the gift to say, where is it within me not only to forgive them, but the mastery is to forgive myself.
Absolutely.
Forgive myself, which is usually the hardest, and I would say probably the biggest one to spiritually bypass, because we can point to the divine, we can point to every spiritual point, but then we can say, how much am I doing on a daily process to forgive the aspects which comes right out of the head? Because the ego can say, well, there's nothing to forgive. I've done all the work. There's nothing that I'm angry. There's nothing. I have about 1,000 things I have to do today. I'm not even going to ignore it. How many times have we really sat and saying, what can I do to forgive more within me? Because the more I forgive within me, the more I surrender, the more I accept, the more I start to allow, the more I start to be in the moment that allows me to the grace of gratitude. Because that beautiful journey, when we look back at the forgiveness, it's like, wow, this was the biggest test, that now I can be grateful for the thing that upset me the most. And to get to that phase is what I call the magic of the mastery of ascension, because then we start saying, thank you for every single thing that comes apart, that comes to us, so that we can rise through it, and we can be. It is a process. It is an energy, but that gratitude and thanks of every opportunity. And this is where I ask myself, every opportunity that I'm triggered or I get upset, it's another opportunity for me to go to gratitude and say, thank you, situation, because I want to see what is it in that experience that gives me the understanding of what I'm still holding to, what am I attached to, what pain has not been released yet, or what has been covered up, because it's another opportunity to become lighter, to ascend, and to rise in everything that's moving forward. Is because really the more triggers we have, it's the more pain underneath that's looking to be healed. The less triggers we have, it's like, wow, I'm going throughout the day and I'm not getting upset at every single thing that's happening. And that, I feel, points to say, what inner work is there for us to do, because ultimately we're here to let go and let God, to forgive what has been hurt within us and for the whole planet and beyond.
And I feel the words are very fancy, they're beautiful, and until you put it in real action and really go through the process, that experience, again, is the highest resurrection that you get to experience. And I do feel deeply blessed that I have experienced the deepest of the deepest of the deepest forgiveness in my life's journey, with finding, and it took a 15-year process to forgive my father and be on the other side of it. And I feel until you have really walked those shoes, you're just talking until you really go through the depth of it. And it does involve all your bodies. And this week I felt I've been cracked open, wide open, and really and seeing the house of my inner heart again, and clear, and just the pain and pain. And then it tied to this also brought up many friendships that I have. It's been shifted, and that has left me a bit of pain, where it was just projected and so wrongfully, really wrongfully. So it was something, if I was the perpetrator, but not, you show up with so much love and then it is like this, and that scar that it has left, and then you find the courage to walk again. And so from here, this week, from this, it allowed us to really communicate that place, and really that place of the heart, and allow our union be in a different place. And I feel like once I pass this phase, I really feel that Michael is going to go deeply into it, because then is that, because he has the will, he has the inspiration, he has the commitment, and to take that personal responsibility to not keep repeating, to be able to, also that's that deep responsibility. You don't want this, you can't say I don't want it and then keep repeating. So you have to grow out of it, so that way we're in a very beautiful space we're sharing. So from this, what triggered also was my son getting ready for school, for his university, my older one. Then suddenly in the middle of this, also I have them dealing with this son of mine who going to school. The university has mandated certain regulations with which the board, I don't even want to say, that's very frustrating. In order, he doesn't even live on campus, and they're mandating all these awful things which I don't believe in. And so what that did, that really, really brought up, like, okay, what are the choices and what to do about this? So yesterday, as I'm looking into this and I'm reading the details, it's I can feel the trigger coming up, and I speak with him, and I was like, please don't go to school, like it's not worth it. And for him, he's like, flat, he's like, that's not an option, I am going. You're, again, like usually then when you communicate it, you're the one who's look crazy. Oh, mommy, you're overreacting, you're too emotional. So this is usually what has been said. And that's the part, even though I'm communicating, I'm standing up, I'm considered you too emotional, too, crazy saying this. I'm standing up for what I can see or communicating, but it's not received. It's just not received. So anyway, so from there I was talking to, and that triggered me. Here he is, he's thick-head, he's not even here. I can't get through. It reminds me again of his father. And then so there's that stuff. And then the Pandora door opened. So my son turns 20 this in a week and a half, and that's when his school begins. And so after we hung up, I came and I just laid in the bed and I just started bawling. And Michael came in. He said, "What's going on?" And
actually, before you started bawling, I came in and I started holding her and I said, "Honey, what is the deeper root of all this? What's really happening underneath all this anger, all these areas of like, what Honey already sees 20 steps ahead, and as most sacred divine feminine beings of light, they see what's happening, yet there's that stubbornness of the mental body or just one limited perspective to hold that view, because we can see, especially Honey can see it so much far in advance. I can
see it like a 360.
So I was like, what's going on? And she just started, and so as I held her, I said, Honey, tell me what you feel right now, because I've heard the stories, but I wanted to hear it again. And she's just like, I fought for so long. And once she started to open her emotional body, then
the
floodgates started to come. And that's where I find, which is so pivotal in this healing, is when we get to express the emotion. We can be heard, when someone can hold us, when someone can really allow the opportunity and have the power, have the strength, have the acknowledgement and recognition of what wants to be expressed. It was such a beautiful demonstration of Honey just to allow herself to go into some of the moments and memories that were still there 20 years ago.
So my son was born 20 years ago, and the week he was born, he was very ill. And so there's still an imprint of so much pain inside my chest with the way the medical establishment handled this 1 week, this size baby, and what I went through. And I didn't have the support from his father, because his father was so scared. We were both so scared, and we didn't like what was being said to us. And I was frightened, and I was just imagine a brand new mother, and they're between MRIs, CAT scan, hospital, and like 15 doctors over him, this special case, everyone wanting to take pictures. And I mean, I was broken, like just broken, devastated. And I didn't even know how to go through it. And what happened was, so then here he is. So without me realizing, as I talked through it with Michael, I was feeling the same. I want to protect him. Like, no, I don't want you. And I'm trying to protect him against this dark energy. Was very much what I experienced 20 years ago, that what they wanted to do to him, and his sacred energy being given to this. And I felt again the feeling of helpless, hopeless, like broken came right up, and like not being able to breathe, like that panic coming in. And
at that moment, I said, Honey, are you safe? And you said, yes, I am safe. I said, Honey, is Kian safe? Yes, Kian is safe. I said, and so it's taking that energy, which sometimes comes up as anxiety, comes up as fear, that wants to pull the energy, the darkness wants to come in, but to reiterate what your divine rights are at that moment in the present, so that you can find that security, safety, and empowerment, so it's not being pulled away from you. And what I appreciate about Honey through those moments is then I said, Honey, there were these old programs that even from maybe 20 years ago that were still playing out in seeking, what is your power right now? And that power, which all of us have, is to trust, not just to trust, but to realize that we were never not alone. We were never not supported. Divine has always been, because when Honey starts speaking about this story of her child. So
what happened, I started really saying what happened, what was happening
but
to
I
me.
asked you, what did you do? And you said, I prayed.
No, so because I felt so lonely standing up to the medical establishment. I grabbed my baby and I screamed like a crazy woman. And I said, no, I will not allow any of your options. No. So it's this, like, the woman is considered hysterical because she's acting that way and just fighting, like literally fighting, just it's been fight. And so what happened in that moment, that week, I was so distraught. I had hit such core bottom. And usually this is what happens when we are so broken, and we're in this depth. And I had closed the door of God for so long, because since my dad died, and I just shut the door, which was 8 years earlier. And so I found myself in that moment looking up with so much anger. And I told God, I said, you did this. And I know you have an answer for me. You better show me the way. And I commanded that like I'd never commanded anything before. And I took the breath, but I found a power in me from total distraught, despair. And that door opened. And that was the door that opened into somehow the research. I started learning about these chemicals in the products, what happened to my body, what was passed on about the vaccines, how this is tied to this UN agenda, has tied into the politicians, has tied into the oil industry, how they create the business of these illnesses, and then, then things they're doing with the pineal gland, and then disempowerment. And then I started learning. Then of course, this is exactly 20 weeks ago, I learned about the pedophilia rings and the Hollywood. I mean, it's just my entire world turned upside down. It was the birth of my son. So interesting enough, 20 years later, here we are. It is the agenda. I know behind the scene what this cover-up pandemic scandemic is behind. So interesting, 20 years later, here I am. I need to find a deeper strength in here. So through this, we needed to face this with Michael. So I can I've never expressed it to the level that I did, and the level that I cried it out.
And not only did you express it, you shared it where someone could hear you, could heart you, and then give the permission to what I feel what most mothers do. I'm not a mother, but what most mothers have the ultimate mastery is to trust. I said, what is your power, honey? What can you do now? And you can trust it. And we started to go through visualization. I'm like, honey, do you trust that there is God around Kian? Do you trust that the angels, like, okay, let me stop right there. Okay, I see the diamond crystalline around Kian. Okay, honey, can you see the angels around Kian? Yes, I see the 4 angels in his 4 corners. Okay, that power of allowing.
So what happened? Michael started walking me, honey. Okay, can you see this? So then it brought me here. So started using that power in the visualization, seeing it, and then we went into invocation, and I really call it in.
Before the invocation, it was, we were looking at, okay, I am in despair, I'm in helplessness, I'm in hopelessness.
And we had to bring it to this now, because it was the energy of 20 years ago. Right. No, but one second. No, yeah. It was that moment, Michael. I had never released that moment.
Right, exactly.
I just carried on, but I never, that depth of what I experienced, the loneliness carrying this on, like no support. Right. So finally 20 years later, because when you're in survival, you're just going. 20 years later, I'm finally meeting this opportunity to now really face it and to know, am I in despair now? Am I hopeless? Do I feel disempowered? Does my children not have the power to really face it and reprogram that consciousness, reshift the timeline, and bring the power back into it? And one second, then you say, because this is exactly what happened with 88 StarGate. All that light comments. So what's going to surface up? Then you have to apply it in action, because you're going to go through the layers of your bodies, and you have to address, because if addressed through you, addressed through Nevon, addressed through Kian, like you guys are the closest to me, right? So it has to be addressed.
And the gift of that was to dissolve the feeling of despair, hopelessness, and helplessness, to remind you that during that whole time that the divine God supports us. We are not alone because God is there. We are not helpless because
that door did open back. So I started feeling that support, not the human plane support, but the higher support.
So to bring to all of our lives and its experiences, it's okay to feel loneliness. It's okay to feel despair. It's okay to feel helpless and hopeless, but those are all illusions because we're never alone. There's always an energy of the divine, angels, masters, guides, directions, elements that are always here to support us. When we give the trust, when we give the will, when we give the faith that we are protected, that we do have these beings of light, and then we not only start to visualize it, we start to feel it, and then we make the proclamations of what they are in our mantras, affirmations, however we choose. Then we start to rewrite the old program that has been running through us, because these old programs are beautiful to bring up all of the pain. And as it's brought up, to express it, to feel it, to sense it, to see it, ultimately it's here to release and let go, to bring forth what I was very grateful to see you then proclaiming.
Yeah.
All
because
of that's
everything, my voice changed, everything. But this was this week. See, from 20 years ago, it was that despair, like distraught handling it. I did turn to God. This week with Nevon and Kian, both of them, I even sat at the altar and I called it in. I called it all in. And like this morning, 4:45, I woke up, call in the angels, call in, chose to see the visualization, chose to see him be protected up that the right in. I asked the angels to bring the right people, all of this. So I was able to apply it in action because I do have the higher help. But what needed to happen was this, it's a vibration within me that was stored in my emotional body, and it's usually in the mitochondria, to be finally released.
Right,
because it's so close, because that's what wants to. So the war is never outside. The war is on the inside, because it wants to be free. It wants to be free from the suffering. Me, myself, it's not that I'm creating suffering. There's this program that's running where the suffering had taken place and it's still running. It's like a software. And until you can bring the power and light of yourself to it, to choose to face it, to see it, and be able to transmit it by facing it directly, it's going to keep running. And that's why you can't, and it's in your emotional body, it's in the fascia. You cannot bypass it intellectually. Intellectually is very important for survival mode to move forward. At some point, you have to catch up with it.
Isn't it interesting that when we go through forgiveness, that starts to open up?
Yeah.
And at the same time, when going through this, what's so very important is that openness to believe that there is a creator and the divine energy is right by your side. I can't express how important that when we pray, it's one thing to pray, it's another to pray and be open to the fullness of your heart, that you believe every word that you say is going out in the openness of your heart versus just saying it and not feeling or believing. Because the gift of what you were expressing yesterday is you already believe and you're open to it because of your divine connection.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have lost their divine connection because they're not open to God, because they are lamenting
or source
because they're lamenting it because it has never brought the joy and happiness. So then all of a sudden it diminishes our power over prayer, because we have to first find that connection of what we feel with the divine. And part of it, that's the first step to open those doors again and believe that divine is here to help, and really believe it. So that openness, the gift is because you have already had your life after death experience, you've gone through mystical experiences, and you've been given that opportunity to already establish that as a breath. There are so many people that have lost their connection with the divine. So all these acts
I can understand that, because if you see these blocks, right? They're blocks sitting in your field. So there's a streaming light that just wants to come in and go through. So you are a pure instrument. So as a pure instrument, nothing wants to block, because it just wants to radiate. We're talking about the rainbow light, completely radiate. It's not even ours. It's our origin of creation. Our soul spark wants to radiate, but these things bend the light. It doesn't allow it. So it comes up finally when you are mature enough, you're strong enough, you have courage enough, and you're finding a position that you can handle it, it surfaces. It still doesn't feel good at all. It's very difficult. Or maybe you have the support that you can finally have the strength, the true divine strength to face it, for it through your transmuting flame to transmute back into light. So there's a lot of compassion for yourself to go through this journey, because once you're going to the journey, you are on the other side of it. It does not repeat, but it is a full transformation. And that's what is very difficult for people, because you are extremely raw, you're extremely open, you're literally like just there's no defenses up, nothing, and you just nothing. And it's very important, that space, you're not with somebody or someone who's going to, bring their daggers into you, because you're not going to be able to rise out of it.
And what's beautiful, when we're in that state of vulnerability, we're in that state of rawness, it gives the perfect opportunity to be nourishing to ourselves, to be soft and gentle to ourselves, to be loving, to acknowledge that space right there is that space that you get to bring in with the fullness of all the divine love that's already here, to help really bring in the light that's piercing through it. And I find,
and it's nice if you have that luxury. This week I have not, because mine has been back to back. It is, do the best you can to be gentle to yourself, but it's not necessary that you have the luxury to do that. I want to say, I don't want people to feel bad. Like I didn't quite get a break from Nevon. It was right Keon. Like I'm just back to back facing it.
But you've told me that when the universe wants
happens,
to teach
it's usually threes.
When the universe wants to remind
Clear
honey,
me.
Because you got to remember, this is a fast-moving honeybee. She can go right through it. When the universe wants to really, really get the message clearly, it doesn't happen once, it doesn't happen twice, it happens 3 times. And if you're lucky, it might happen 4 times, because it happened on all of the men that had a close relationship within honey, and that's what is being brought forward, and you can breathe through it. One thing I wanted to address that you said, Lisa, that was very, very important. What you said, the difference.
I don't know what was.
She said the difference between accountability and forgiveness. Or you said, what's accountability and forgiveness? I believe, and this has been, honey from the very beginning, that accountability is necessary. It is our extreme awareness. It's our consciousness of what has happened, and to bring forth that acceptance of what has happened. Accountability is acceptance, just as forgiveness is acceptance. And I feel when you can bridge both of them together, it doesn't have to be a war versus one, because sometimes we can say, we have to be accountable. You have to be accountable before I forgive you. There's truth that we need to express, and that each individual has to hear from what has happened, from the cause to the reaction, and to the reaction to the cause, because the accountability is really seeing the truth that has been placed forward. And that accountability is necessary to learn, to dissolve, and to fully bring it into light. Just as forgiveness, no matter how dark, how painful, how wrong or right, good or bad, because we have to realize we don't want our ego to create more polarity of like, well, it's their fault, I'm not going to move because I'm not going to forgive them, they all did it to me. This ego wants to stay right. It wants to stay in control, and it always wants to stay in a position where it's not me, it's them, and blame, in judgment, and the fullness. Accountability also comes from the compassion of our heart as well. And that compassion in our heart, yes, it can be firm, it can be direct, it can be to the point, but we also want to bring our divine heart into the situation that's been brought forward, so we can allow forgiveness. Because if we're holding accountability, and even if the person is not accountable for themselves, we still have to look at within ourselves holding that accountability so we can get to forgiveness. Because sometimes we put accountability and then we hold off on not forgiving because there's been that illusion like, well, that other person is not taking accountability, so I choose not to forgive. Well, that is your own choice. No one has to take accountability until you choose to take that accountability of what has been done to create that within yourself, and then you can allow the forgiveness. And that's just my perspective.
I feel I need to share something at that. I really like what you share, Michael. I really feel, Lisa, that accountability and forgiveness are higher conscious awareness virtues of divine.
Yeah.
They, on a, let's say, a third dimensional construct, that forgiveness and accountability, it doesn't apply very well because there has to be a will or a desire for growth. But if it's functioning on, let's say, a survival, it just wants to feed itself, so it doesn't really have a place to go. Now, accountability is first applied to the person before another. I feel what is interesting is most of us want to hold another person accountable for their action versus, because it's coming from a victim perspective, it's been, versus accountability of taking charge of the divine power. So when you tune in and you're very clear, no, this is not part of my reality, I will not accept this, and you can clearly see the person is coming from whatever place, and let's say projecting whatever from that place, then, and if you purposely have not placed yourself, let's say, in that situation, and there's this sort of like dumping, then very clearly you can address that accountability, and you hold yourself accountable that you are not going to entertain this any longer. So it's very clear. And if the will is there, then you can forgive it. If the trust is there that the person also takes the accountability, because there's maturity, there's the love, there's the desire, there's the commitment, whatever, then forgiveness between two individuals can move forward.
And the patience
and
as well.
and the patience. But you would feel it if the person does not have it, because there's just a fast move on, but no lessons, no nothing, then it's very hard to apply that forgiveness, although still whenever
in the 3D.
In the 3D. But even when you choose to access forgiveness, the gift is always first you are the one who's receiving than anyone else. And you can forgive, and I feel this is also another thing that goes with accountability. You can forgive a person, but for you it's been easier to forgive a person, and most likely it's coming from the head energy because they haven't fully processed it. Keep forgiving, and then putting up with that action that keeps repeating. You see, right? So you have to hold yourself accountable in that dynamic. So forgiveness and accountability, to me, really go hand in hand. They work with each other.
And for those that are on a conscious path, the biggest test that we have right now is to forgive the unconsciousness, because we can hold the unconscious at, we can say we got to hold the unconscious at in creating accountability for them. But if they cannot see their own actions, or they're asleep, we can't sit there and still blame and shame them because they're not awake right now. They're not mature, and they can't see that.
And that's where we forgive.
And that's where we forgive. And also,
from the higher plane,
I also really believe why also the patterns keep happening is because the universe also provides these patterns within us, that once we forgive that pattern, and that pattern no longer has a hold on you in the charge that situation's creating, that pattern will then dissipate, because once we've reduced that charge, that trigger, that reaction or response that has happened, and once we sit within that and bring every aspect from our forgiveness, acceptance, surrender, allowance, and gratitude, then that energy no longer affects you. And then that pattern is no longer coming from the universe, because all the universe and creation wants to see is to move through that so it doesn't have effect over you more. It's like the baby crying. Maybe in the beginning, the baby was like crying and crying, and you would go check it every single time. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I trust that I don't have to answer the call of the baby every time, because maybe it's just crying because it has to cry right now. So I'm not going to run back, because I've already gone through all of that guilt, the shame, the suffering myself. So these patterns that keep coming, I truly believe, acceptance or not acceptance, when we go within ourselves to clear that charge, that pattern no longer has an effect over us. If that pattern doesn't have an effect over us, there's no more triggering anymore. That trigger has been healed, and all of a sudden it's like the things that used to affect us no longer affect us anymore, because we've risen above that. And with this unconscious energy that's happening right now, it's our truest test to see how we can forgive the unforgivable, and even those that will choose not to be accountable for their actions, and not to keep fighting them, because they may never choose.
And I feel like it's to hold the vibration of forgiveness. And I feel that's why we individually go through this, so that we can truly go through it ourselves, and then really in a very anchored, grounded way to do that. And I just want to add just one more thing about forgiveness that I feel is very important. If there is something you really know, you have to forgive. Let's say it's a person or a situation. Let's say if it's a situation, you are not going to be able to go through the process if you are in that situation. You have to remove yourself from the situation to be able to go through it, so that you can be in finally the space. Because if you're not in that supportive environment, it's not going to give you the ability, because you need that container. So, for example, if like, let's say with our dynamic, Michael, we're living together, we do everything together, and there's a part that has to be forgiven. So, but when let's say there's a specific part that has to do with him, but if he's here and he's repeating that, it's very difficult for that to take place. So that space is needed so the healing can take place. It's very much like the example of the alcoholic. If let's say, the spouse or whatever, an alcoholic, and you want to be able to handle this, but if it keeps coming, that environment doesn't let you. So you have to be removed from that environment to go through that journey, to be able to then find the strength, the power, the courage, all of that, to be able to address it. Otherwise, it keeps hitting like that big, let's say it's like a gigantic wound, and it hasn't healed, so it can't go anywhere. It keeps being removed. So I feel this is very, very important to know that, and to not fool ourselves either. And that's where the accountability comes in. When you know there's a part you really have to face, and you do need the support. And it's important, maybe call out a couple of people. I need support to go through this. Can you hold me in that light, so that I can go through this, and remove yourself from the situation or the person and what have you. So when you come back, like with my younger son, we said we need a few days space, not communicate, not text, so we can go through it. And it was mature enough for him. He asked for it. And I fully honor that. And that is that higher maturity. And each person then responsibly does their part, which I feel is very, very important. Okay, ready?
Yes. So thank you, guys. I know we went a little over today to a longer tea time, because we have not been here in several weeks. So let us take this time just to place your hands over your heart. Take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Let's just go ahead and take 2 more deep breaths. That felt really good. And one more deep breath in. Deep breath out. And listening to today's divine message. Know that we're all connected. We angels are connected to God, to you, and to every sentient being. The same spirit of love binds us all, completely and forever. The more you know this universal fact, the easier it will be for you to listen to our messages. The only reason why you sometimes can't hear to us is your belief that we're separate from you. Remind yourself throughout the day that you're eternally connected to God and us. You're also linked to all the people you meet, and they are too joined to heaven. Powerful love runs through the web of this connectedness. The more you know that everyone is united, the more you feel and experience this current of caring. The thought for today, repeating after me. The angels are coming through you, honey. I am forever connected to heaven.
I am forever connected to heaven.
For I am bound to everything.
For I am bound to everything.
As I focus on my oneness with angels,
As I focus on my oneness with angels,
I can better hear their caring messages.
I can hear their better messages.
I am one with God's love.
I am one with God's love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Powerful message today.
It's so perfect.
Thank you.
That was
Perfect
so
message.
perfect.
We are
And
all connected.
I wrote a lot about this one yesterday.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It's perfect
So good.
because really the less separation we see within each other, the more love we can hold within all.
So let us also see what the Ascension Frequency Oracles want to share with our group, where we are, what's happening. Let's see. So much love as you breathe in. Okay, here we go. Saint Germain. Saint Germain, Lord of Civilization, cooperates with Archangel Zachiel to transmute the lower energies of the world in the violet flame. He is a great alchemist and magician who transforms that which no longer serves into something beautiful and light. Your guidance is to invoke Saint Germain. Surround yourself with his violet light and see the divine perfection in whatever or whoever you wish to transform. Your pure intention and focus can create with his energy to make miracles happen. Use this to help yourself and others for ascension. Affirmation. I believe in my ability to create miracles.
I believe in my ability to create miracles.
I'm so grateful for Saint Germain. It's been every day working with this violet flame in me, around my children, both of my sons, around the situation, around Michael, around here, just constantly, hourly, by minute, really calling on this violet flame of transformation.
Thank you all beautiful beings of light that have stuck around for these 2 hours. We're very grateful. We honor your time. Thank you, Monica, for joining us and dropping in. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, James. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Demetrius. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, dear Caitlin and Miriam, and all our beautiful, dear, sacred family of light. We're just blessed, and we just really, really are happy that you could take this time to honor yourselves, to feel these messages of divinity, and to really listen from within your truth, because it really is about your truth, what you want to apply within yourself for this beautiful ascension journey. So we thank you so much.
And also, I will have that little tea time privately with us on this, so we can do a Zoom and maybe channeling the masters. I will announce that, not quite yet. I do want to move through this process as I have a little bit more, and I usually like to go through it alone. And I'm not one that reaches out to people when I'm going through this, because it's my commitment, my devotion. It is my passion to my ascension flame and to my planetary service. So it's very important for me that I go through this. And with Michael, we get to share quite a bit. We will be on the road on Sunday. Tuesday night, we're either going to be where the location is or here doing the group meditation. We'll announce that. And also, something strange has happened to our Facebook page event. We can't quite invite anybody, so we can post the event page and just share it on pages. So if you like to share, that would be really, really deeply appreciated. And we really thank each of you that takes the time to go through this journey. I just want to thank you. If you are daring to go through this, there's a lot of talk, and I don't do with people who just talk and explain, use fancy words. I personally respond to those who have dared to walk it. They've anchored, they're sitting in it, and they arose from that direct experience. That's what I value and appreciate so, so much. And if we can do it, when we do it for ourselves, we make it possible within the collective for others to also find that courage and truth. So again, the greatest thing you can do for this Gaia is to do it for yourself. Dare to do it for yourself. So thank you so much.
Wishing
You're
you all
all
blessed,
so
beautiful
deeply
weekend.
loved.
Thank you.
So grateful. The video is going to be available on our Ascension Alchemists page. And if you find value in it, please share it with others. We're very grateful.
Yes.
And write it, just for algorithm purposes, write a comment on our YouTube page and like it. That's really going to help our channel. We're trying to have our group, our YouTube channel grow. So much love, everyone. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.